anyways.
Right on, that's exciting.
Yeah. The other two things that he mentioned that I'll mention to you as well, just I want to get some feedback from you, is he talked about inclusive zoning. Have you heard anything about that?
Only that the municipality was granted permission to use it kind of through the provincial. I don't exactly know why logistically they needed permission from the province to do that, but that it's now going to be a tool that council will have when reviewing projects to, I don't know if force is the right word, but like require certain percentages.
Yeah.
Why, what was he sort of saying?
Yeah, so inclusive zoning, for people who don't know what that is basically what they're saying is, okay, so right now we have like you make your application, and then usually what they're offering is people say, okay, well, I'll give some affordable for a bonus in density,
right,
or preferred financing, or preferable financing, sorry. But instead now they're saying they're going to potentially go down the inclusive zoning path, where it's saying, okay, if you're building a 10-story building, you have to have a unit per floor or 2 units per floor that are affordable.
Yeah, because they were setting aside this money that would go in coffers, and the idea would be like then down the road they would use that for something else. But that money then just sits in this coffers, and then they never know how to direct it, and blah, blah, and then it sort of delayed the immediate impact where, like, okay, this project got finished, we got this money, but now we have to take this money, pivot it over here, and find something else that could be years and years away. Yeah. Wouldn't have been better to have just made them do it in the existing project?
He just mentioned that seems to be a much more prevalent thing that they're talking about quite a bit, and something to look for in the coming years.
It's also going to jack the value of existing permits and existing development applications that are approved. Because if you already have it and it didn't earmark inclusive zoning, then you're kind of grandfathered into not including this. The obvious question is going to be how much and what constitutes affordable. How is that going to be allotted? Because you're getting the same applicant walking through the open house for the whole building.
Yeah.
And then they're applying just, I would like to live here in one of these units. Do they get ushered over here based off some pre-qualification or not, right? So there's a lot of things to work out about it, but it sounds good, and there seems to be a lot of interest in doing what sounds good.
Yeah,
whether or not
there's some merits,
is
but
a different question.
Exactly, if it's laid out properly. And then again, I don't have much more on that because he didn't really have much himself to provide with us, because I think it's still very infant stages.
Yeah.
But the last thing I found in the meeting, that CMHC's preferable financing was thrown around a lot, like in a crazy amount, as kind of like, why is it even a question to build affordable when CMHC offers you such a great program for building affordable?
Bullshit.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you build with affordable? Because it just makes it so much easier to finance. And I remember you last week had mentioned that might not be the case. So I kind of want to hear what your take was and get maybe some more detail.
Yeah, I mean,
on that.
I feel like that's a horse that's been beaten numerous times over. One, it doesn't result in affordable housing, really. $1,400 to $1,800. That's been covered at length in the media. That's not really solving the deep affordability question. But the challenge more recently is, it was great if you got approval for it 12 months ago when rates were at an all-time low, because they make you build in this flexible range to your application, knowing that during the course of your 2-year build-out, rates are going to change. Yeah. So they build it out a wide band and qualify you within that. That's similar to how they stress test individuals going for residential mortgage. Like they stress test you at a higher rate than you'll actually get. And they have to do the same thing speculatively on a construction financing. And I know since the time that I began looking at my current build and drawing out all the numbers in the spreadsheet, it's gone up a full percentage point, which doesn't sound like much until you get into the nuance of, oh my gosh, that changes my numbers just a little bit. And in order to get the deep affordability that I might qualify me for this program, like I can't do it. And this sounds like you just make it affordable and then they give you the money and things are great. It doesn't matter if you can't afford still to pay the mortgage. The numbers on it get so tight, like you do have to qualify for the mortgage. And if they make it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, like that is the rents, that all sounds good. But if you can't cover the mortgage payments, the building doesn't get built. So this idea that is a solve everything is so ignorant of the reality of that program. It's very, 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 very difficult to get. I mentioned before that it was 1 in 4 that got approved years ago. Now it's probably 1 in 5 or 1 in 6. And if rates do what we all expect them to do over the next 24 months, It's just not going to happen. It's just
feasible.
not going to be applicable in any way, shape, or form. And then there's the fact that it doesn't address what the actual problem is. And this is something that I would think with all the conversation we have about affordability, that we wouldn't still be playing these games of talking about affordable with a capital A and it meaning different things to different people. Nothing about that program is going to address the real affordability issue, which is rents under $1,000. Because the only way you can do rents under $1,000 in new construction, especially, is if the government builds it.
Subsidy.
Like,
or government.
The government has to build it.
Yeah.
Because you cannot build it and rent it for $1,000 and under. It's not possible. And where that supply is quickly disappearing, the government is going to have to intervene and build that stock. And they refuse to acknowledge it. And so they throw around all these other things and people pat themselves on the back and, yell different obscenities online as if that's somehow moving the needle until the government steps up and says, we are going to build these units. There is not going to be any affordability in the marketplace under $1,000. You can be upset about that. You can blame that on the private sector or whatever you want to do, but that is a fact. It is not changing. It is only going to get worse. So until the government builds and manages and operates and runs these buildings themselves at a loss, there's not going to be affordability under $1,000. Don't know how many times you have to say that. It's so obvious. I was
playing this broken record in my head,
man,
as they continued to say CMHC at the meeting today.
Yeah,
I could hear you saying it, Chandler. I could hear it in the back, and I was like, Chandler's getting pissed right now.
Listen, it is a fine program, and it can be helpful to the builder. It is not going to move the needle any substantial amount when it comes to affordability, even in the mid-range, but it's certainly going to have zero impact at deep affordability. And I think everyone should know that from a common sense perspective, but it still doesn't answer that problem of where these people are going to go that are trying to pay under $1,000 a month.
And we've touched on that in previous episodes. So I would say if you haven't heard that, take a listen on that.
Yeah.
And give us some feedback. And again, if someone has a solution or a way that they think would make sense, we are super open to receiving it, looking at it, and dissecting it. So let us know, because we have gotten a lot of comments with people saying what the issue is, but not much on the way of alternative options or ways to kind of handle it. So we'd be very open to see what people have for ideas.
Yeah. I don't even know, like, their ideas are going to be, landlords just, like, home ownership shouldn't even be private. It's not a real job. And, you shouldn't be able to make money off of housing. Well, all those things we just can fundamentally disagree on. Private property laws in Canada states that you are allowed to privately own property. And there's tons of things that are a human right, i.e. education, healthcare, all of these things, including housing, that, yes, they're a human right, but that doesn't mean people cannot make money off them. Teachers make money, universities make money, doctors make money, landlords make money. It has to be fair and equitable, and people need to treat each other with respect. But if you're laying this entirely at the feet of the private sector, you are going to get nowhere, because it's not going to be fixed by way of the private sector.
When I was broke, I had rich, had